And now to news from closer to home. He could be out of prison in as early as 5 years. Talking about Dennis Drue, the man who was speeding, texting, and had alcohol and drugs in his system. He was sentenced today to 5 to 15 years in prison for the crash which killed 2 Shenendehowa seniors.
And drastically altered the lives of the 2 others who survived that crash. Today, eloquent and heartbreaking words from the families of those killed and from the 2 survivors. We were there as the sentence was handed down. Our crew is live tonight outside of the Saratoga County Courthouse. Matt Markham has more on what the victims had to say about all of this.
We're going to kick off our team coverage, though, with Brandon Lewis with more on what prosecutors who, remember, were bypassed by the defense and the judge in this case are now saying about the sentence tonight. Brandon?
Yeah, Dory, for the district attorney's office, certainly disappointing to them, but they were taken out of the equation by the judge and the defense in this case. They spent nearly a year getting ready for a trial that ended up not happening. Tonight, District Attorney Jim Murphy taking time to set the record straight on where we ended up and how we ended up with this 5 to 15-year sentence. Dennis, do you have any comment? Dennis Drue had nothing to say as he walked into court, his last time walking free for the next 5 to 15 years. Inside, the 2 surviving victims, Bailey Wind and Matt Hardy, gave emotional impact statements. The parents of Deanna Rivers and Chris Stewart, who were killed in the crash, blasted the judicial system for allowing Drue to get a lighter than expected sentence.
Our hands were tied when it came to sentencing because Judge Scorano and Mr. Drue made a deal directly with each other. The DA's office is not permitted then to dictate the sentence.
The DA's office tried to argue for more time, but Drue's attorney, Stephen Coffey, said he would challenge it in appellate court and would likely be overturned. Coffey had no comment leaving court, but inside he said the number came from the DA's office during early negotiations.
That is not so. All kinds of numbers were discussed over the past year or so, and that 5 to 15 years came prior to any hearings in the case.
Once the hearings happened, the deal was off the table, but was put back on by the judge and Coffey and was ultimately accepted.
We withdraw plea bargains because of the reasons I just stated, because families have to go through more angst and heartache and mental and emotional anguish. That is a standard thing. Mr. Coffey and I have done that for years together. And so I find the comments today in front of the judge just simply remarkable.
Now, tonight, the district attorney's office released new information about the context of the text messages that Drue was supposedly sending at the time of the accident. It states that he was supposedly on his way to buy marijuana at the time of the accident. Now, today, perhaps one of the most emotional days in the courtroom, in any courtroom that we've experienced. My colleague Matt Markham spoke with the families and was there as they spoke after the news conference.
And Brandon, you were there too, so you could undoubtedly hear the gasps in the courtroom when Dennis Drue went up to the witness stand to make a couple of comments before he was sentenced. One thing he said that kind of surprised everybody was that he feels guilty enjoying watching football. Maybe he shouldn't because he thinks about Chris Stewart, one of the lives that was taken in that accident. Chris Stewart, of course, was a football star at Shenendehowa High School. He was well known for that by his peers, and tonight his family says those peers are the ones that are helping them through.
I was fortunate enough to give birth to 2 sons, but I've taken on an entire community full of sons and daughters.
Regina Stewart was notably poised and collected in the courtroom, even when she addressed the man whose actions led to the death of her son. "Lead us to a place of pride," she said to Drue. "Take over for Chris. I know you can do it." Bailey Wind was overwhelmed with emotion on the witness stand, instructing Drue to look at her when he was not. She referred to him as, quote, the most hated man in the 518, but still wants this day to be about something more.
Before you have that first drink, please have a plan of how you're going to get home. Before you pick up that cell phone while driving, remember that it can wait. Please honor Chris Stewart's and Deanna Rivers' memories by always being kind and considerate to everyone. Number 69 and number 19 will live in our hearts forever.
Wynn's mother, though, expressed her great sorrow that the sentence was only 5 to 15 years. She told us that she will never rest knowing that Mr. Drue could be up for parole again.
Even though no amount of time would have brought Chris and Deanna back or take away Bailey and Matt's injuries, this sentence is a joke.
Chris Stewart's brother, Jeremy Stewart, made a couple of statements in court today, too. Remarkably, he said he hopes to one day visit Dennis Drue, perhaps behind bars, and forgive him, but he's not ready to do that yet. He actually thanked Drue for listening to his statements about his late brother. Also, at the same time, there was a different tone, though, from Deanna Rivers' family. Her father, of course, going through all the times that Deanna Rivers will not be able to share with her family. Birthdays, special things, dancing and falling to the ground, and laughter, he said in the courtroom. He called Mr. Drue a sorry excuse for a life and said that when he gets out of jail, he will kill again. Reporting tonight from Ballston Spa with Brandon Lewis, I'm Matt Markham, CBS 6 News.